Egg Boxes and Turnips is a short monologue I wrote years ago while I was trying to build up a backstory for Nefertiti and Roger, and it's set in a belly dancing class, funny enough. It was Halloween, and I, keeping with the Halloween theme, was merrily teaching Gothic tilts to my flock of 3 belly dancers. Cheryl, Karen and Margaret had been loyal students for months, which I suspect has much to do with my comic stories of Roger as my shimmies. Roger refused to celebrate anything. He was brought up in an old folks' home run by his mother and spent his Halloween entertaining the elderly dressed as a dog. Not alone, but accompanied by a mother who wanted to be a comedian and a father who loved to impersonate Barbara Streisand and Shirley Bassey. Where the dog came into it, I have no idea. Roger only talked about his childhood under the influence. It took him several whiskies to mention his mother, several more his father, then he usually passed out. My class loved my Roger jokes. I could tell. They never told me to shut up, and sometimes they even laughed. Tonight, however, Margaret seemed to be somewhere else, despite me playing Sting, her favourite singer. She was on a rant as unstoppable as a tide, and loud enough to drown out Sting's Field of Gold on full volume. Halloween, she shouted, "You can stuff it!" I stopped. Margaret loved Halloween, especially the costumes. No egg box was safe in her hands, and as for turnips, I've seen her whip up a face quicker than a Sting's tantric chant. There was me, to my arse in egg boxes, chipping away a rock-hard turnip for his grandchildren, said Margaret, and where was he? I was about to ask hiding under the sink, but I caught a look from Cheryl and gave it a miss. Glued to Strictly Come Dancing, ogling Felicity Kendall's ability to do the splits. I had no idea that Felicity Kendall was still alive. She huffed mid-shimmy. 3 hours it took. She looked around the room. 3 hours to craft a mouth big enough for a candle, and there he was, drooling over some blonde with good lighting. The room was quiet. A toilet flushed down the hall. The least he could have done was appreciate my work. She tossed her scarf on the floor. Like to see bleeding Felicity make a turnip work. Karen turned to Cheryl. You sure she's not dead? Cheryl mouthed. Margaret prided herself in her belly dancing hips. The power of her shimmies was legendary. It was like an unbalanced washing machine on full spin, and up till Felicity Kendall's splits, it had her husband hypnotised. There I was, turnip in one hand, paring a knife in the other, and do you know what he said? She's the same age as you, isn't she? And before I could answer, then he starts going on about the good life and Felicity's Rear of the Year award. She does look good in it for her age, muttered Cheryl. Margaret glared at Cheryl. I may not be able to do the split, said Margaret, but I can shimmy my clothes off with no hands, even the underwire. Bit too much information, muttered Karen. I tried to continue with the class, but it was pointless. Margaret had spoiled the ambience. Even the tantric laments of Sting couldn't budge her dark mood. In fact, Sting was beginning to grate. Cheryl told Margaret to give the guy a break. We all have our fantasies. She gestured to the janitor in the hall. He'd give his tool bag and more for a night with Karen. Karen jumped. What? Why do you think he's always popping in, bleeding the radiators? Karen's tight bun almost flickered with embarrassment. He just wants to see you shimmy, said Cheryl. Karen looked at me. The door burst open. The janitor entered with a nonchalant whistle, dumped his tool bags by the heater, and squatted with a grunt. We watched in silence as he pulled out a wrench and tried to twist the untwistable. Fantasy, said Margaret. Well, if Felicity Kendall and her yoga legs is my husband's fantasy, then do you know what my fantasy is? No one asked. Choking said husband with my belly dancing thighs, said Margaret, stoically circling her hips. So there you go. Never roll a belly dancer. And if you do, don't do it when she's peeling a turnip. Till next time, happy reading.